What scale is Star Wars Shatterpoint? Well, the official answer is we don't know, but Atomic Mass Games themselves have actually given us a very big hint. Well, a couple actually. In a post where somebody was asking about the scale of the game and if the terrain would be useful from Star Wars Legion, Atomic Mass Games said this: existing Star Wars Legion terrain will work with Star Wars Shatterpoint, and vice versa. Which is interesting because it means that the terrain that comes in the Shatterpoint box may actually be worth just buying for Star Wars Legion if you're a fan of that game. Now I'm going to show you some images, one of which I think is technically wrong, even though it might look a little bit official. I don't think it is. I have seen this image flying around a couple of times and I have a couple of disagreements with it. One, I think this is from somebody's YouTube channel. I don't think this is an official image, and I get that because Tippy is, from what I can gather, like a Patreon, and this, I believe, when translated, says support the channel, you know, they're making videos. So I think it's somebody's YouTube channel, probably a French YouTube channel, and they've probably just done this as like a mock-up. However, my main disagreement is I don't think the base is going to be 38mm base, or maybe they're saying the scale will be 38mm. I doubt it because I think the bases for Legion are 28mm. Either way, I don't think this is necessarily a reliable source. I think this is just sort of speculation, a little bit like what I'm doing right now. The fact that AMG have said that the terrain will be usable, I think at this scale it looks a little bit questionable. To see Anakin on the left be so much bigger than Anakin on the right, I'm not sure you could like reasonably say that the scale will be the same, or at least intertwinable, if that's a phrase. And then we have this image. Now this isn't my image, this is off somebody's Facebook post, actually on the same thread of the one that where AMG say what they say. And the reason I show it you is I don't have any Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures to compare to my Legion ones, but I think this gives us a good indication of what we can expect. Yes, on average, the Marvel Crisis Protocol models are a little bit bigger. If you look at the Punisher versus the clone's on a higher base, yet visually they're about the same kind of height, even though the Punisher's not quite standing up. Sort of a similar story for this lady. The lady is, well, they're both sort of leaning, but the Legion one is on a bigger base. I don't know who the lady is, by the way, don't hate me. Wolverine's small, but I think he's supposed to be small anyway in general, isn't he? But even him on his rock is about the same size as the Clone Trooper. He's a little bit smaller, to be fair. And the Hulk's just the Hulk and not really relevant. But I think what we're saying here is we can expect the same kind of bases. So, and the reason I was against the bases on the previous one is Marvel Crisis Protocol uses 35mm bases as its main. And actually, if I just quickly show you this official posting from AMG, they use 35mm, 50mm, and 65mm bills. 65mm bases. bills. Can't pay my automobiles. So I think we can expect the same. Marvel Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Shatterpoint, very, very likely going to be the same. There might be slight difference in proportions, because if we have a look at these models, I would say that the Star Wars Legion ones are maybe a bit, I don't know, stumpier. And I would say that Marvel Crisis Protocol is perhaps maybe a bit more realistic. Because if you look at the size of the head, even though these guys are about the same size, and granted he's wearing a helmet, the head on these characters, the Legion ones are generally a bit bigger, and the Crisis Protocol ones are generally a little bit smaller. I think Crisis Protocol, a bit more realistic. Now, you can almost get an idea of the scale just by looking behind Will and Simone when they revealed the game. To me, they obviously look like Marvel Crisis Protocol figures. I don't think they're going to go much bigger. That first image sort of implied that it would be a bit bigger. I just don't think they're going to be quite that vastly different. I think with Atomic Mass Games saying that the terrain will be useful for both, I think that implies that, yes, they're going to be a little bit bigger and the proportions might look a little bit different, more realistic versus more like authentic or cartoony or whatever you want to say. It's weird because they actually want a cartoony vibe for Shatterpoint, but in my eyes they sort of look at maybe like a little bit more realistic, but I mean, whatever. But the proportions are going to be slightly different. Sure, that's all okay. I do think that Shatterpoint will be a little bit bigger, but not noticeable to most people's eyes. Like, we had a conversation with a friend, Tim actually, and we're talking about whether or not the terrain will be useful, and before I'd even seen AMG say yes, it's going to be like interchangeable, I was like, yeah mate, if it's MCP, the scale's going to be completely fine. Now, there is that classic thing with MCP that if you buy 28mm terrain, that sometimes it can actually look a little bit small, but then they even made terrain themselves that looks a little bit small. Can't remember the name of the building, but there's a Marvel Crisis Protocol building that just does not look like the right scale, but that's because it's so big that they sort of scaled it to something they could actually sell. I think it's a Doctor Strange building, but I can't remember what it's called. So while officially the answer is we do not know, unofficially I think 95% of people truly believe that this game will just be a very, very, very similar scale to Marvel Crisis Protocol. They will likely use the exact same bases. I think they may even said that. I can't remember if they did or they didn't. But why would you make a different kind of base size when you don't have to? We know that they like the Marvel Crisis Protocol base size because that's the base size that they picked. Legion they inherited. So I think they're just going to do the same. Anything else I think is madness. If we get an official answer from AMG, I will obviously let you guys know. For now, just presume it's MCP. Work with terrain that's Legion compatible, you'll be okay. That's actually from the horse's mouth. And let's maybe not try and stress about it. I think your terrain and your stuff will be fine. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.